Today we're talking about nuts, cuts, and those infamous dick pics. This probably sounds like an unusual trio, but stick with me, because beneath the surface, I believe there's a fascinating thread that connects them and important for us to understand. Let's dive in. Initially, I was simply curious about the psychology of the dick pics. What was the underlying desire motivating these behaviors? And is there a symbolic story connected to this phenomenon? But this got me considering simply the power of displaying and witnessing our genitals. And so let's start with our testicles. The word testicle itself has origins in the Latin, coming from the word testis, which originally referred to a witness or someone who gives testimony in a legal context. This same root word is where we get our other words such as testimony and testament, still conveying this ideal of bearing witness or providing evidence. And so what is it that our balls, our testicles, are providing witness of? On the one hand, they reveal our very existence as males. Whether we're the butcher, the baker, or the candlestick maker, the presence of a nut sack is clear evidence that we're participating together in this reality of what it means to be a male. In the Old Testament, one of the requirements for priesthood and even entering into the worship assembly was to be free from physical defects, including not having crushed stones or damaged testicles. And so in some way, shape, form, or fashion, the men had to have their balls seen, exposed, examined, and verified in presence and health. There's also a sense in which our testicles provide witness of our virility and ability to procreate, both literally and symbolically. Of course, our testicles are where our sperm are produced, our seeds to be able to conceive new life biologically. But symbolically, the story of our testicles is that we have what it takes to be a source of life and goodness in the world around us. And on some level, we want our creative potential to be seen, witnessed, affirmed even here as well. While testicles provide witness on their own account, circumcision was an intentional mark to convey a larger story. It was a requirement given to Abraham and his descendants as a sign of God's covenant with them. Their very bodies was to bear the mark. Their very bodies was to communicate this sign, this story. Signs by their very nature are to be seen. The question then becomes, seen by who? Who is supposed to see this mark in their manhood, this cut into their very penises? Some have suggested it would have been for his wife, that every time they had sex, it would have been a reminder of the blood shed as they entered into this covenant relationship with God. I have no reason to doubt that this was part of the sign. But because males had to bear this mark from infancy, it seems the sign was not just to speak within the bonds of marriage. Certainly it would have been for the individual male, as he would have had an intimate reminder of God's covenant every time he went to the bathroom. And on some level, it also seemed to be a sign communicated within the company of men. When Abraham was circumcised, he did it with his son and with all the other men on that same day. And so collectively, the men would have shared some mutual understanding of the pain and significance of this mark in their bodies. And seeing this mark in each other would have reminded them that God's covenant was not just with them individually, or even just between him and his wife in marriage, but was something that was shared collectively with all of God's people. It would have also communicated a masculine identity, that this is what we do as men. And to be in this fellowship as a man, this is what is required of you. And this brings us to the infamous dick pics. This is often seen as a crude and even offensive form of exhibitionism. Leaving all the problems with this behavior for others to discuss, it became fascinating to me that the language we often use around such exposures. He exposed himself. I wanted to show myself off. Somehow there's this connection being made between exposing the penis and revealing the essence of a man's personhood. And I think there's more here than just convenient euphemisms. I believe on some level we want our true selves to be seen. And the penis is to serve as a symbolic representation and witness of our manhood. And so while dick pics on the surface might just be about the sexual buzz, I believe the deeper desire is for us to be fully seen and known. And when we don't have opportunities to integrate this naturally in modern life, then we're more prone to exposing ourselves in illicit forms because I think part of us is still craving that validation that comes from being seen. And so this is the common theme connecting nuts, cuts, and pics. That part of our identity and sense of connection comes from being seen. Yes, in our naked physical realities, but more than this, to have our very soul seen and accepted. Next time, we'll flip the script and talk about the power of the male gaze. There's a time to be seen, and there's a time to see both have their place. Till then, take care.